In the expanded universe, Jango Fett wasn't the only template for the clone army. After the death of the bounty hunter and the end of the Clone Wars, the Galactic Empire was still using the Jango Fett clones in the Stormtrooper Corps. However, during the events of The Force Unleashed 2, the Empire began creating clones of Boba Fett as well, as a means of making soldiers faster, and implanted with Boba Fett's memory flashes into them as a means of training them while growing them as well. So this story starts when Vader hired Fett as well as another bounty hunter to track down an escaped clone of Galen Marek, aka Starkiller. But before leaving to start his assignment, Fett examined several accelerated clones, all of whom were unstable, that were being developed within the cloning tanks. A cloning technician explained that the new clones that were being engineered on Kamino could be grown to full maturity in a few short weeks, rather than the 10 years it took under the original Kaminoan style, or even the Sparty cloning technology's 1-year process. Unknown to Fett, however, Vader had used this new method known as accelerated cloning process to also grow thousands of fully developed Marek clones in the span of 6 months, in addition to the Jango Fett troopers that Boba witnessed in the early stages of their growth. He then went on his assignment. However, after seeing the rampage that Starkiller left behind him, Fett knew they couldn't successfully defeat him, and Vader redirected Fett's efforts to capture Juno Eclipse to lure Starkiller into a trap on Kamino. However, unbeknownst to Fett, the other bounty hunter was tasked with acquiring Fett's DNA and scans of his brain to give to the Empire. Anyway, Boba succeeded in capturing Eclipse and delivered her to Vader on Kamino, but before Fett could collect on his payment, Vader commanded him to remain in Temira City until Starkiller was neutralized. Fett became frustrated and demanded his reward right away. Not only was he aware of the fact that the clone was about to arrive with the entire Rebel fleet, but he also knew that he would most likely die in the ensuing battle. After having seen what the clone was capable of doing on Cato Nemoidia, Fett knew that with his limitations, he would certainly be killed in the confrontation with Galen Marek's clone. Yet Vader's decision was made, and he was not allowing the mercenary to leave, and this forced Fett to begrudgingly remain at the Sith Lord's side. When Starkiller broke through Kamino's planetary shields, he also directed the starship's remains towards Temira City. Fett just barely survived as debris from the Rebel flagship crashed into the cloning facility. The ground assault of Rebel troopers that ensued forced the bounty hunter to take refuge deep within the intersections of Temira City. He was then attacked by another clone of Marek, one that was both incredibly deformed and deranged and had escaped captivity. Despite its undisciplined use of a lightsaber, the clone exhibited Marek's strength in the Force and exceptional resilience to pain. Fett only managed to survive this encounter by launching a rocket from his jetpack into the clone's head, thus killing him. As the battle fell further and further into the Rebel Alliance's favor, Boba Fett found the same cloning technician that he had spoke with during his first visit to Temura City. He demanded that the scientist remain behind and protect the undeveloped Jango Fett clones, which Boba Fett viewed as the legacies of his father, because from Fett's view, they were normal Jango Fett clones. However, this was not the case. The scientist would reveal that the clones were not created from Jango Fett, and their genetic donor was actually Boba Fett, their fellow clone. He then explained to the stunned bounty hunter about the acquisition of his DNA and brain scans. The Empire had planned to use the copy of his brain patterns to create the memory flashes that would be used to train these clones, and upon closer examination, the clones created from Boba Fett's DNA were vastly deformed and were clearly suffering from clone madness. Outraged by Vader's deception, Fett killed the cloning technician and proceeded to burn all of his clones alive in their tanks. You see, Fett felt that killing them all was an act of mercy, as first of all, they were very unstable and had clone madness on top of being very deformed. Additionally, using Boba Fett's memories would cause them to experience a lot of his terrible memories at random times throughout their lives. Fett's actions would also stop the Imperial usage of clones from his DNA, as well as return back to traditional cloning methods during the pre-Endor period. And that is the relatively quick and short story of Boba Fett's clones in the expanded universe. Did you know about them before this video? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.